begin this episode of The Adventures of Captain Cosmos, we've got a message from the fine folks at Pulowski Preservation Services, purveyors of products there when you actually need them. Seems there's been a lot of talk these days about vault life, but not all of us have the luxury to spend so much on something that, frankly, we may not actually need. Unlike those other guys, the sensible folks at Pulowski Preservation Services have created an affordable line of personal protection products to make sure no one gets left behind. Personal protection, there when you actually need it. Remember, that's Pulowski Preservation Shelters. Simply there when you actually need them. Exact change only. And now on to our show, The Adventures of Captain Cosmos, co-starring Jangles, the Moon Monkey.
Pulowski Preservation Shelters are coin-operated, one-person fallout shelters found on the street corners of more urban areas of the Capital Wasteland, the Commonwealth, and Appalachia, constructed by Pulowski Preservation Services. Advertised as a sensible and affordable alternative to the vaults, they were intended for use as a last-minute resort in the event of a nuclear attack. The shelter itself is firmly secured to the ground, and ventilation piping is attached to the rear of the booth. Some models have a luminous sign on the front of the shelter indicating whether or not it is occupied. Before the Great War, the shelters were used in a Pulowski Preservation squat contest. Though the shelters can shield against some explosive force, they do not seem to shield against radiation. The installation of so many booths may have been due to the climate of fear before the Great War began. The shelters only had an air supply, no food or water, so the occupants' survival was dependent on what they were carrying at the time. The only advice offered after entering the booth is, wait for radiation to clear, enjoy your stay. Some of the shelters are in disrepair when encountered. Though apparently coin-operated, the player can enter by pressing the coin slot, with no money being taken. 2 centuries later, Pulowski shelters have found a new use in protecting the citizens of the wasteland from its dangers. At least one non-player character, Brian Wilkes, hides in a Pulowski shelter. Conversely, in Paradise Falls, the shelters are used as punishment cells. A Pulowski shelter at the far end of the settlement is used to detain unruly slaves, and is named the Box. This shelter is unique in that it has been modified to be lockable, imprisoning the slave. The key for this shelter is in possession of 40, typically nearby sitting on a bench or patrolling around the destroyed car wall. Despite the sign on the shelter telling users to wait for radiation to clear, there is no Geiger counter or any other form of radiation measurement to indicate when it would be safe to leave. In the Commonwealth, the shelters are a bright shade of blue, also featuring pre-recorded ads for pre-war goods and services. They are also much larger, possibly allowing for one or more person. It's always interesting to see what remains inside of these shelters when encountering them in the wasteland, whether it be a ghoul, a teddy bear, a skill book, a landmine, or nothing but solitude and your own thoughts to torment you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more. If you do, you will find shelter and escape Todd's wrath. If you don't, then the Todd rays will disintegrate you.